In this video, we are going to cover the Rails and Fence tool. That tool is located over here in your site planning tool set, and it looks like this. So if you click on that, there are a couple different modes. There is a polyline mode that allows you to draw a fence just as if it were any other polyline. You should recognize that shape by now. And then there's this 3D line mode. We're going to play with that. That's a good way to place a fence onto a site model. So we'll work with that a little bit later. But first, let's go over some of the options for selecting your fence. So first, you have this symbol selection option right here that will open up your resource manager, and you can see that there are several defaults, railings and fences. So and they have it broken down into imperial and metric. So go ahead and click on imperial, and you can see there aren't that many that you have to choose from. Go ahead, you can view them over here in this little window, kind of click through them and see what's available. You might find something worth using over here, like the wooden fence is pretty normal, pretty average looking. But it's a good idea that just to start with a fence that's in the ballpark of what you want your end result to look like. So let's go ahead and build a wooden fence, and we'll just use this fence wooden flat, vertical, empirical. So go ahead and click on that, and I'll show you in the drawing. If you wanted, you could just go ahead and start drawing, and that fence would appear. So let's zoom in on this, take a look at what that looks like. So that's a pretty average looking wooden fence, I would say. For now, let's go ahead and delete that and go back to our fence tool. So with that symbol selected, come over here to the preferences mode, click on that, and we're going to flip through some of the options that we have. So first, notice that we still have this symbol selection available to us, but we've already picked the correct symbol that we want to start with. And then over here in the preview section, sometimes wireframe is really helpful to view in, but I think that OpenGL is helpful, and then there's also a hidden line drawn that's pretty helpful for viewing these. Because now with these other options on the side, we are going to change what that fence looks like. So the first thing that we're going to change is the top rail. If you'd like to add a top rail to your fence, just click on that top rail box right there. And then we're going to go through some of the basic options in here. There are some more complex options that you can dive into a little bit deeper if you'd like, but we're going to keep it fairly basic to begin with. So the top rail, you can choose your profile for that rail. And for a wooden fence, a rectangular top rail is going to work just fine. And then I can change the width of that rail and also the height. I think I'm going to go ahead and make this a 3-inch width. And I'm going to change this so that you can see the preview in color, get an idea about that. And then the second thing is over here you have this box that you can select called top rail ends at post. So that's just going to make that top rail terminate at the end of that. The next thing that we're going to look at is the post option. So over here, this is where you're going to change the height of your fence. So right now we have a fence that's about 6.5 feet tall. Let's go ahead for demonstration and just change that to 4 feet and see what that looks like. You can also change the profile of your post. So that's what an octagon post would look like. And let's make the diameter of that a little bit thicker so that you can see it. But I think that what we had to begin with, the rectangular post at 3x3 is a good choice for a wooden fence. You can change where your posts begin and end. That's a little bit more complicated, so feel free to play around with that, but for now, let's just skip past it. The next feature that you should pay attention to is the arrangement. So fixed distance, that means that from this post to this post, it's 8 feet. You can change that measurement. You can also change the way the parameters for that figure. So you can do an approximate distance, which is nice. You can also do the number of posts if you know how many posts you want to go in your fence. So let's just take this back and leave it in approximate distance. So you're welcome to play around with the fascia mount if you'd like. The next feature that we're going to play around with is the frame and panel. So that's everything in between the post here. So you have a couple different options. The frame is what you're looking at right now. A panel would be a solid material. A lot of times you might see glass in a fence and not necessarily a solid wood panel, but you have options. So let's go back to the frame option. You can see here's the top of the frame and the bottom of the frame. Both of those can be moved or toggled on and off if you'd like. Let's go ahead and leave the top and the bottom of the frame on. You can also go ahead and add a side frame to that as well. Let's go ahead and take that off. And then here at the bottom, the frame bars, those are all of the slats that go here in the middle. You can change the direction of these bars if you'd like. You can even do a 45-degree angle. Well, looks like you got to have at least the horizontal selected in order to do a 45-degree angle. And let's unclick that and see. Well, play around with that if you'd like. For now, let's go ahead and just leave this as horizontal. You have the same option that you had before about shapes, so play around with that. Rectangle is going to work for this wooden fence that we're building. And then you can play around with the thickness, the depth, and the maximum distance here. So for depth, let's go ahead and turn this into a slatted fence. So we'll go ahead and make those 2 inches. And then for the maximum distance, let's do 2 inches there as well. So it's a little bit more of an open fence. You can play with the start and end. So this just gives an angle at the start and the end of the fence. Let's leave that at 0. And then this final pane is for the attributes. As you can see, the 2D and the 3D are controlled separately. I'm going to leave all of the 2D as it is for now. But let's go ahead. We added the top rail, and so it has a fill color that doesn't match, and it doesn't have a texture assigned to it. So let's go ahead and make that top rail match the rest of the fence. To do that, we're going to double click on that 3D top rail, and then we'll go to fill and the solid color, and then there's not very much going on in this document, so you can see under active documents right here that I only have a few browns to choose from, so most likely it's one of those 2. And then down here for texture, I can come and pick texture, and since that wood pine is active in the document, that just popped up. So click OK, and now you can see that my rail matches the rest of the fence. So before I click OK and start drawing with this fence, if I come up here to the General tab, I have an option to save as a symbol. So let's go ahead. We're going to give this a name. So we will call this a 4-foot slatted fence. And then we'll click OK. And that should save as a symbol. Let's go ahead. We'll click out of this, and then we'll go to the resource manager and we'll look for it. So in my current document, which is this Studio 7 site modifier start file, I can see that I do have the 4-foot slatted fence, so that's good. Let's get out of that and go back to the fence tool. And then for the symbol selection in the drop-down menu, I should be able to go. Now I need to go back. Right now I'm in the default fencing, but if I come up here to my active document, I can find that 4-foot slatted fence. Click on that, and then I can start drawing with that. So let's zoom in and take a look at what my fence looks like. And that looks good. Sometimes when you make a fence, you're going to have some posts that end up being pretty close to each other. But when we created this, and we did, let's see, I think it was under the post. The arrangement, we did approximate distance, so that's kind of helping to space those frames apart. But if we had done a fixed distance of 8 feet, click OK, and then let's just start drawing a new fence and see what it does. Okay, so this is a good example. So we don't have approximate distance selected, and you can see that these two posts are really close to each other and look awkward. So the way to edit that is with the railing and fence selected, go over to the object info palette and then click on this button that says position. And basically, it is going to show you there are 4 posts that make up this fence. It's the third one that I want to move. So when I click on the third, you can barely see it, but it goes red. I can come over and click on edit, and then I can move this. So if this is 8 feet and this is 8 feet, I think what I'd like to do is just push that back about 2 feet. So I'll do -2 feet since it's going backwards. Click OK, and then click OK one more time. And let's look at that again. I might have just done 2 inches. Yes, I did. So let's edit that and do -2 feet. Try that one more time. And now my posts are in a better position. So that's it for this video. So now you know how to use the basic fence tools that are available, the basic symbols that are available, and also customize a fence. In the next video, we're going to take a look at placing fences in a site model.